yeah, it's on your wiki. There's really nothing to hide.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I sent it out. Alex, you're good. We're good.
Got it. Ready? 4.
Advantage one is growth. The physical crisis driven by healthcare costs. Instead of the classes health research and graduate research and slows growth. Price 26, social structure healthcare. Conscious access to the economy, energy, 20%, anxiety, insolvency. Let's invest with business crisis, office skill, let's expensive consume. 21% in economy, health resources, investment. Bubbles, cost disease, most sectors, growth, stagnant waste, the rise of economy becomes deflationary. Healthcare, inflationary, social factors, medical, inflation, health limit, OSP, as well as constant workers tax. Giving debate, reduce revenues and healthcare costs, burden, insurance, PM's government, and massive different losses footing with economic crisis, relative limits, rates. And if these leads to fiscal dominance, government runs social deficits, the federal inflation mandate, and gas costs, just 3 years, 100%. Fed cannot raise rates, modernize and debt, and inflation leads to these financial system. Government deficits compete the private sector government rates and making more sensitive to us. Credit research and credit innovation slows over growth and investing, and technologies and investments in companies government double sizes reserve currency, challenge cost of target forcing crisis. Economic digitalization creates fiscal drains and defense. Developing strategic overreach, driving down healthcare costs key. Stanley 25. Developments making economy dollar effect of superiority. Low peak cost of superiority cost of the economy right defense release and same chance. Percent US and already from the world and use start. As we do decarbonization for would be getting release defense. Especially some going economy spending and spending to go rich US that need vacuum power. And feel well organized dollar on even lit on an interest rates and notes last decline and deficits of dollar dominance. We're going to leadership of the organizations and assets with all. We're trigger foundation code globalizing good landscape strong US second growth. As necessary so the came of the super status so if Wall Street focus on the reduction venture, especially the US and sector healthcare sector, US aspects of the companies, large margin by saving inferior outcomes. Defense and trade costs increase nuclear lines extinction hardened for US. Our vision company to the landscape company new weapons each company carries increase nuclear cooperation by Russia North Korea in the likely force to fund acute conflict and French forces US versus line nuclear weapons. Responding aggression in the Second World War, second dynamics increase risk of nuclear weapons will be used. Independently slow growth causes extinction but no turns. Because growth is a lot of things, let me try to say about something about resisting go back in time. Mission plan I think was progress was Sunday area, so best business cycle of choices and environmental regional landscape as these mistakes we have open as into business resilience and to business plan characteristic of reason to go to economic conversation. This is all the catalyst insurance, aging rapidly using labor force and to flow growth and good quality. We waste of the public is really researching ideological competition. The vaccine is a token region vaccine to in the world around. I bet US major dominant boom necessity one in China, receiving institutions of the US Russian versus SOI through course of technology, hybrid warfare, and energy levels, the rising regional powers, and reachability and ability of alignment, and recommendable and increase level of SOI claims, challenges, economic pandemics, cyber concerns, borders, the corporate activity, clarity, becomes instability. The plan solves 1. Monopoly power, single payments in government, negotiates lower prices, worker 26, these cross on the price of lots of lacking monopoly purchaser, the opportunity of having there's no kind of balance, the price of right and reducing the epic governance, so the creating testing coaches, the effect of the control less of rights and computers, you leave everything up freedom of looks like monopoly purchasers, and when you can have health and ability to contribute to constructing different maps, market-based approaches are unlikely to see performance increase competition not had positive impacts. 2. Administrative costs, inherent to molded error. Boston, who says the thing that we health growth more than anything else by massive difference wasting people here. The thing that's drive growth is increased wealth extension. Business centers expensive recycling, paperwork, administrative costs. The massive increase in private insurance and administrative costs in private sector. Risk mitigated Medicare to more than that's under control. One market increasing costs that nothing coming close to 3 and the Rishi we see. Pricing around that half even you need funds, so there's no reason. You can't do that by spending dollar more. Normal means is progressive taxation transfers that's sufficient and that reduces costs. Poland adult 18. Through medical quality, health costs payroll by 9%. Reduce level wastewater medical quality, reduce competition expenditure. By 6% by 1.6%. Institutional spending exists while resources by 1 trillion. Progressive framework. It does work business payment number 6% less. Proposal to the cover 8% of payroll tax and national tax and network tax. Tax on income for gates business but covers policy costs fall at 30% of the building families. Costs fall appropriate income. Higher families cost only 2.4%. Thus the plan. The United States federal government established a tax finance to compare health insurance, including abortion rights, vaccines, scientific input, and that eliminates co-payments and deductibles. Advanced use and quality. Healthcare payments drive wage stagnation. spiking inequality across every sector. Market reform, high-quality settlement, that half growth here. Customer families, financial, hospital, hospitals, agreements. Low-income families, accessing high wage society, health, buses, unemployed workers. And families with $1,000 by close to more than health benefits. Wage increase by 1%, out of 130% by 9%. Only 51 increase costs for city rural and down pressure. Equity down pressure, health wages and health insurance payments. Gross income capacity for more health benefits and wage increase. By wage increase, the capacity, work wages, and health premium costs. I kind of more quarter income and numbers of logical health costs. Utility benefits, workers who lose 25,000. Excess with existing racial gaps in education, medical debt, and food security. A single person scheme for checking corporations and solving inequality. Bigger than 26. And medical consistency, circular, responsible child data, universal access, medical sexual innovation, premature deaths. Reform of the political policies, single political immigrants, a chance to create opportunities for reforming justice, and give equality for all the social framework, helps serve cultural norms. Inequality causes distinction from interlocking global capacities. There was societal collapse, January 26, inequality to risk global capacities, and for us, increases during makes contracts harder to disrupt democracies. Limited mitigate effects of abuse necessary. Recently grew up recently major pandemics critical instrument and recently responsive abuse equality as well as goes. There's a high risk of helping international security democracies are important resilience to going equality right risk. As countries that internal population moves access hunger, it's for these states that ability to respond to crisis become severely and societal resilience trend downwards. Lead cause complete to the last way growing equality societies up to total investment in vulnerable and exhaustive stocks like pandemics or ecological disasters and disrupts long-term economic growth while creating popular support. Walter 26, representation that goes to community circulation, capital affects long-term outcomes of high wages and low most productivity subsidies can also tend to reduce productivity. Anti-generation and reach lows and liquidity companies track of long-term programs to income act increase preference consume. The content quality arises consistently less available and less leads to asset presentation. For recent problems await to cost case. How studies invest in economics government close revenue gaps in tax and resulting in aggressive tax structure. Ideal gun friction as the inequality drops evens. Principles of growth and resilience and policies and political leaders. Gas levels about possible populist movements and equality better cross borders. Should be seen trading and trade capital safety and agricultural conditions. Stable budgets for aggressive and risk of contagion. Nuclear war. And in 26. Studies highlight populist leads to total website calling. Resolution C word long and white offices and politics culture. Crisis book companies will act about balance word for populations. I think that reduction of national security nuclear risk for nuclear institutions. I think you suggest that they will and rad for nuclear stability. Immediate transition scheme, Poland at 18, anticipation of providing healthcare, opposite financial health insurance, quality service, the true revenue acquisition, easy healthcare business, financial recoveries, and once there's already recent technical project snowballs, 2/3 of revenue will all be accounted for. Inequality means the domestic audience experience on chief executives, dropping democratic erosion, not reform, high quality with US democracy, institutionalization and assets the weakening public commitment and federal institutions controlling companies, whose one quality of those rest national credit study and financial risk while also association and plus association with the balance of democratic erosion on bonds. I read as the chief executive created the democracy, all the trouble, and money go last 7 years to read about inequality, voters come and be institutionally enhanced to access the last 7 years. When the tech institutions democracy such as war linked to totally undemocratic behavior by leaders. Extinction development with the United States movement growing and into progress. Democracy released its feminist switching and rules which only the states have likely major wars with the discovery switch and duty, non-transparency government and release back from pandemics because future workers, reduce natural risk companies, they have better project control to rule this, locking HS with self-limited democracy, opportunities and build up possible, and more favorable than social democracy and medical apparatus to trust the world, risk extinction.
I'll sum that up.
Good for crossing.
Yeah.
First, how does the plan solve populism?
Populism by
Yeah.
stopping inequality.
By stopping inequality?
Yeah, wage stagnation. So the evidence indicates that high premiums in healthcare is causing wage stagnation. The internal link to wider evidence indicates that wage stagnation is the reason why populism is happening.
Post-Trump is still in office. He's obviously appealing to populist ideals. Why wouldn't that overwhelm absolutes?
Well, his support is gone though. They
His
see
support
that
is gone.
his wage stagnation is stopped after his plan.
Wait, Trump's support is gone because of Trump policy stopped wage stagnation? Can you say that?
Not like all of Trump's support, but like the support for populist policies that Trump pushes.
Okay, whatever. Populists, how do they get nukes?
How do they get used?
Our scenario is US specific.
That's not answering my question.
Also,
Populists are people
Trump-
like, I don't know, Republicans in the South.
Trump proves that we have a populist in the presidency, so they can obviously access nukes somehow.
They can obviously access
They're in
nukes.
political power right now.
Who is accessing nukes? People? Trump?
I guess people would motivate him to access news because of wage stagnation.
Oh wow, okay. The low growth scenario, it seems like they would be alt causes. How does the app solve?
Slow growth, which one?
The one that says slow growth causes extinction.
Oh yeah, the new evidence, it indicates that in the long term, the major cause of slow growth is because of healthcare spending. The price evidence is very good on this. So the price evidence indicates that high debt gets so high that either the Fed has to abandon the inflation mandate, which will then cause slow growth, or the Fed can't service the debt, which then causes a recession, which still causes slow growth.
Okay, so the app solves that. That makes sense. The Gen card, it's about inequality globally. How is the US sufficient to solve?
And we think that inequality in the U.S. likely serves as a model for other
What card
Also,
says that?
single payer exists globally,
What card?
except for the US.
Single payer does not exist everywhere
It exists
globally.
in other countries
And
that-
also, like what piece of evidence says that US inequality is key to solve global crises?
US inequality?
Yeah.
I think the Gen evidence is
The
about
Gen
states
card
and
is
how-
about global.
It's about elites and how elites having power.
Well, yeah,
only
elites
having-
obviously exist outside of the US. How do you solve those?
Okay, outside the US, there's single payer, which can solve those, but in the US, there's not single payer, so we cannot solve
Well, then
this.
why wouldn't other countries with single payer solve enough of inequality to avoid
Because the
inequality?
US is the key source where it goes global.
What card says that?
The Gen evidence.
Point me to a line.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not showing this. Collective action, wealth redistribution, and nuclear war investment in AI.
Okay,
So,
that's obviously
I think-
not a
no,
word.
I think the AI part is pretty good though. It's about resilience and combating AI. So if the US is a key source for development of AI, then
What
we can
piece,
have
what
less
line
development
says
in
the US is key for AI development?
I think that's logical, and you have to read evidence.
That's logical? Whatever. The Hardigan evidence, it says we're cooperating more with China, Russia, and North Korea. Why would we need them?
Hardigan evidence? I don't think it says cooperation. It says that we need them from a lack of conventional capabilities.
So I have our this here.
That's it.
Alright. It's a thing case in order of cost and equality.
I'm good.
Very good. Yep. Wait, how many?
8.
Ready.
Alright, perfect.
First off, the NHR requires multiplayer private insurance. They're not seeking to clear up misunderstanding. NHR, the state requires rights to take out private health insurance. Therefore, multiplayer and requires specifying how the healthcare is organized. When I'm right, you can go to NHR, there were how healthcare is organized. Broadly believe state sports politics in the campaign, not specifying allows time making certain links, precision or evidence. Then go to the next off in the midterms. The Dems win now the 6:30. Democrats have 72% chance of winning the House. Single person is the GOP. Native to provide universal healthcare in the future to be Trump to just go for eliminated. Claiming the party of question Trump supporters actually like GOP. They reject the decisive win campaign, great opportunities to compare by a ton of political advantage to reside media coverage, inflation price, increases Trump running down construction inflation, zero from health insurance raw. Trump could become a hero. GOP win cause exchange on first case.
You're good, keep going.
Oh, sorry. Taylor's report. Global can lead to destruction of return on Trump. With them before by public. But this institution will take control over government's 10 to 11. There's a more disrupt relations with military force. Covers secrets in US intel. Trump is safer. This is to solve the international system. We're building a big economic strength. Have the backbone of the Iran. Support and which I would support China and everyone. Russian dictatorship, so neighboring countries, Russia and China's access to the next trouble in my colors to address it. Evolution next up the capitalism K, NHS capitalism mutual exclusive with NHS in Washington. 20. Failure of capitalist US healthcare system creates terms with the UN to deal with Russia's capitalist industry act, destruct habitat, cause future mandates, collapse, global capitalist system, current economic collapse, with the door for revolutionary transformation, federalization of capitalist economies, all like a holistic health insurance, public, private, financial flows, and insurance companies, which with broader financial capital, issue, and China's private health services leads to private ownership of local infrastructure, protection, privately owned, all these insurance sectors, self-covering, hair coverage, public, subsidization, accumulation of capital, private sector, even single payer effect, a proposed initiative association of high payment for health savings, a further service to provide state-owned health institutions, private public sector, associates world, cubicles, monitor, and insurance, private sector does not exist, capitalism is sustainable, existing plus alternative, new necessary, we should limit private sector, our national health service, OEO to capitalism, private above all, you can go less, wars, economic breakdown, ecological destruction to endless growth, combining planets, endless destruction, sustained growth, isolated conflict in the Middle East, proxy war, nuclear endless power, fuel endless wars, instability, destruction, ecological disaster, global harm face, military spending, surpass neutral direct weapons, war or proxy conflict, reduce carbon emissions, this military large polluter, prioritize the military over social investment redrive, industrial climate zones, existential threat, climate catastrophe, hundred fossil fuel companies, development, economic structure, prices, shareholders return to market planetary health, British stock, and private constraints, resistant companies to drive inefficient state directing economic climate change, legal oil and renewable energy investment, not market led, deliver public planning investment, reflect natural community sustainability, open profit, public planning, foster innovation, event, ecological planning, decentralization. Just as planned economy reallocated resources from military to youth security transport, and they will aggressive. Next up, states can rule 50 states and relevance of natural actors should adopt a single payer healthcare, including an increase in payroll income taxes, provide restrictions they compare, some have segregation provisions, request for ATM, Medicaid waivers, some provisions, and instance of reductions, they self-employed measures. But Husky 20 euros a single payer can take funding and provide restrictions, certifications, to payer provision and payroll income taxes, provide incentives, job applicable, should buy combining plans at lower payroll rates, direct knowledge, provide restrictions, provide do not free up to even indirect effects, capital expenditure verifications, withdraw coverage, not preemptive, and regulatory provisions, permit coverage, and is a pay play later on limits take out work, pulling on release country consent, even if perhaps puts one that his legislature might pass. We were solving well, at least 18 states can adopt single payer maximum Medicaid eligibility, seeking work to redirect federal Medicaid, and they say funding. Next off the British Capital and the United States federal government to grant 88 billion for military and allied defense, active tax, monetary geographic and regional that could be among hospitals. Ban domestic power engineering, plank one solves allied problems and readiness was the Olympic equivalent 50 years ago. Both the word of North Korean neighbors to achieve deterrence, plank two solve democracy, also 26 words of which is active to make equality to apply and trust. Next time, top income line work for public investors, subsidies, and social whole society to get to support it. Plank three prevents existential disease outbreak, governing 20, monitoring and address geographic and social how to below persons to epidemic. Plank four, prevent by attack the also 23, effective strategy for reducing severe distance and events by weapons by states and other actors. Next up is the vouchers council, the United States Prevention Universal Medical Voucher Program provides all residents of the United States a voucher to pay for the access to private health insurance and coverage comprehensive benefits of capital health case of YDAs. Through 7, division of single program disadvantaged universal health care vouchers comprehensive care US receive voucher. Position of health coverage through our insurance cover some standard of benefits insurance voucher except pay nothing related to companies to value added tax health plans that provides data benefits for value added voucher cannot charge for the holders to participating plans private non-government health plans country enrollment alternative away for any research for health work certified company by providing standard benefits government adjust and premium for factors different by national health board. Go to case. Germany's result of time, 126 country, not American power down, a little bit of a chip friction allies were submitted against US policy, not negating this position, only critical role in the system, even Trump, this elected to try premiums and death of the private sector, should strengthen society, little damage, and federal geography gives US large margin of error. All causes, one season, all 25, China, Indonesia, hold supply chain developing wrong with yours, 85% REM's crucial military, China, influence migrant trading, supply regulation, readiness of Europe, because of years and best circumstances, Trump thumbs actual installation, this piece pulled out of treaties and taunted allies, no US last year, apartment, 26, should China war against society, Trump now well, to charge Trump and officials contact their right predecessor to announcing about all response to caution Trump and policy radios Trump here to negotiate with sweeping compacted commitments Chinese committed to about 60 billion a year US Act parties global cities that are in conflict declining population man who knowing with markets you guys are great and easily distracting focus on self-enrichment and try to design himself as Jesus and the slow growth does cause wall 20 and I do not think economic impact war in comparison to our cause and please more US 40 more sessions yes 20 wars most unrelated leaders of war we will be long and striving no matter equal leaders not war unless quick phase and with the success motivation security ever works of the prevention of conquest economics. One fact that really significant is zero break for costs and assume it's something they can't solve lobbying the least control virtually would a single pair of how costs is not good. And that single pair we give to sort of the very little authority, give up political authority, very little authority, our government show up to being 11 pairs. Single pairs is you government separate and separation we set too high. The inequality of advantage it's low. And then 25 training companies and institutions and analyze data and is meant to define by income and cash payments. Ministers of other benefits are made cash with non-account for fails to reduce income of federal state local taxes to short statistics. This is they things were much different if only leading to rapid transfers government programs and taxes include they can't stop global inequality, trigger the impact inevitably to markets Brazil. So 26 democratic transition US export for being wealthiest nation in the world, immersive economic change transformation to feel more rapid with the major drugs the second Ice Age South Africa push back north with protecting white hairs and reaching pessimism accounts upgrade the country of world's longest and return claim defend no publicism village 24 possibilities not established publicly reaching final pretty published every on the 7% of their rural wars was coming to fear liberal harvest commands and considerable strength
institutional trash ads, but we balance hold for opposition, no less most populous, failed by checks of the courage and half past decision before damage, but 6 years of Trump next office, if the FICDA it will be reauthorized, but PC's key shots for 6 change of my conservative nature. You want to kill myself, Trump living on cabinet, to spend Trump has plenty of fights with commercial on set, probably demand party institutional wardrobe security gaps, Trump can be real, can take conference, reform trades off, McDonough 18 national health reform, sex off, political watching, Obama took off, health reform, government front of the political agenda, utility roommates, under redeemed promise opportunity of order, active achieving and constitutional PC one relative health legislation is intense parts of the public passage undermines control gathering. For one, even polarized time 702 is valid for intel counter terror, counter pro-life and counter narcotics updates about the recommendation contains 702. I mean, defense cyber against CI that has a time taken valid reforms fully by entity conclude reforms appear the CJC and oversight board. Intel gathering soft decisions to support 23. The IC original consent defense and CTM and espionage about the calamitous threats are important as well as key to identify race and mitigation. Mark it and mitigation. Next office unique discount that the United States federal government should fully fund and construct the golden dome for America initiative. That's also any straight term to midterms. Back to FISA and the angels in key data reports and mitigation studies shot biology, big data, pathogen, example AI versus religious by terrorists included in nuclear details. Deterrence.
Go deterrence.
Good.
Yeah.
That's the all.
Condom.
Okay. Key complaints.
No.
Net benefit vouchers.
Net benefit vouchers, probably FISA
Why?
and interest.
Why is FISA net benefit?
Because we think that's a single payer would be uniquely politically controversial.
Yeah, but you just give money to do the act though. That's what vouchers is. It gives money for people to get healthcare.
Yeah, but it looks like social insurance. It doesn't look like a system where the government nationalizes all private insurance companies.
Also, Trump has explicitly said that one thing he wants to do for healthcare is put the money in the hands of the people instead of the government, so this would be more likely to be supported.
Taylor evidence on midterms. So what's the interim to this? How do you solve it?
To which
Midterms impact, Taylor.
Midterms impact?
Yeah.
We think if the Dems win the midterm, then they could check Trump's policy.
Explain.
and restrain him from. So if
Yeah,
he wants to like
just-
reallocate funding to spread, keep the conflict in Iran going,
Okay.
then House
For
could stop.
context, vote hub evidence, the uniqueness evidence you read is about the House, not about the Senate. They need to win the House and the Senate to have Congress control to check Trump then.
Okay, first, we can always review evidence. Second, we think the House is sufficient because
Why?
they can block legislation.
What? How?
The House.
Okay. Why is this not dumped by past Trump years then?
Huh?
Why is this impact not dumped by like the past couple of years?
Well, I could say the same about your populism impact, but we
Well,
think
yes.
that 2026 is uniquely key because Trump is gaining tons of momentum.
Okay, so say the same about our populism.
So we think if he wins now, his last few years are just going to be fully unchecked. He's just
Okay.
let loose.
What does the alt do about growth?
But
What does the alt do about growth? Do you abandon it? Do you like socialize it somehow? What do you do with growth?
it's naturalization of everything.
Okay, so will you pursue
We think the alt would probably be innovative.
innovative? How?
Well, because just like the Soviet Union was innovating and investing in public R&D, we think the alternative would do that as well.
Well, like notably the Soviet Union collapsed. So
Yeah, that's for reasons completely unrelated to being socialist.
Okay, what does the alt do about military spending?
It wouldn't abolish military spending, but it would probably abolish the private industrial base.
Okay,
Like
so
private
there would
military.
still be military under the alt. though.
Huh?
There would still be
Yeah,
military.
of course.
Like we'd still have aircraft carriers, stuff like that.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, you read stuff that says that military spending, like the military drives carbon emissions. How do you solve that?
No. That's the key distinction. We remove the private sector, military, which is
No, it says
our
quote, the
internally
U.S.
valued.
military is the largest polluter. You highlighted that. in
Yes,
evidence.
yes, because of private companies.
No, it doesn't. It says
Yes.
the U.S. military, not the private military.
Yeah, no, but the U.S. military gets all of its assets from private companies, and those private companies, when creating those assets, are what undermines government. So let me get it.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, the order is gonna be the first advantage, growth, second advantage, inequality, TNHI, the advantage counter plan, the states counter plan, the vouchers counter plan, the dome counter plan, the Cap K, the midterms DA, the FISA design.
One more time.
Yeah.
Start from the beginning, Tim.
Growth, inequality, T, advantage,
Okay.
states, vouchers. Oh, did I say dome earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, dome, Cap K. Actually, Cap K, FISA, midterms.
Dome, Cap K, FISA, midterms.
Yeah.
1, 2, T, advantage, United States, vouchers, uniqueness, Cap plan, Cap A, FISA terms.
FISA, Cap, FISA, midterms. Alright. I'm good, Tim.
Cool.
Feel free to let loose.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Hedge is not resilient, the word is strong, economic growth, which is offense to the captain, only act itself, the only word is strong as well, which is responsive to economic growth being necessary to preserve the U.S.'s place as the leading hegemon. Now, decline causes economic fragmentation, dispromotes cyber democratic collapse, aggression, and enhanced cooperation over climate epidemics. That's the Leo. Now, all causes to it. Zanelli says physical space is key to resolve long-term deterrence, which overcomes other all causes. Isolationism isn't our internal link; it's just deterrence. And U.S. lash out goes nuclear because of defense constraint, ensuring two-front conflict in Asia and Europe. Forcing nuclear lash out, that's part again. No lash out. Yes, lash out. U.S. treaty agreements, but the U.S. in a two-theater conflict which goes nuclear. That's part again. Wall is about short-term decline, which doesn't serve total collapse of the liberal international order from collapse of the U.S.'s place in it. Because our internal links are based on about long-term geopolitics, and lobbying is wrong. Fiat solves the plans negotiations are done in good faith. Also, lottery down arguments being half impossible. And lobbying is machine rights. Connoissing, distracting, avoiding, nearly voted overturned opposition to go away from countries, gave real minority with industry, overhauled industry, build opposition on monolithic housing, human or diverse and rights of aim control. Lobby group is comparatively better multi-layered agreements, insurance, and form of price gouging, and the impact is an increase in the marginal tax rate on the most wealthy, which has no impact and is good inequality. Inequality is a downward factor in benefits, and conclude that wage stagnation is widening the gap in the future, which ensures existential inequality. That's blocking now. The U.S. is the key in terms of global inequality. It's the world hegemon and leads the LAO, and inequality erodes the ability of governments to interact existential threats, which is an impact on relaxation. It's try die. That's gen now. Populism, democracy isn't resilient, and inequality erodes future checks, and it's the key in terms of resolving future crises and resolving war in the future. That's Belfield. Try or die because they have right defense. So yes, populism is about institutional checks, but inequality erodes them by removing trust in institutions. No numbers, only future inequality can trigger it. But populist and control crisis and imprison nuclear competition, resulting in irrational nuclear first strike. That's T. 1 would be evaluate the plan of vacuum as most rejected precise. 2 is counter-variation and initialize our single variable quadrant. 19. Initialize the ways in reasonable complement parameters of variable single variable. Vertical integration by initialize the universal complement of the overall energy together in the prolonging single verse one. Third, A is grounded with topic or affirmative goals of the literature because positional or evidence identified. Analyze the literature consensus illuminates that way, and then their alphas are solves best. Then and states plus politics equal to set the parents are accountable but solves use the ability to erase the body counter interpretation. NHI doesn't require specification. NHI does not require a specific purpose and arrangement for any financial bullying of health care, the rights, basic insurance. Preferred A is after specification picks. Just make every app and B decision we cite best consensus definitions. Advantage capital. 1 is do both. 2 is do a combination of the plan and any of the planks. 3 is do counterplan. It's a way the plan can be done. 4 it certainly links because it still results in massive amounts of spending and or alleviates cost pressures on current citizens, which links to the midterms to sad, and is certainly politically infeasible. It can't solve when it just solves no code. Our scenario can still occur from conflict with Iran, China, Russia, and other adversaries in the long run. NIT fails. Status 23. Administrative costs NIT based on assessments governing your income to introduce areas require adjustment. NIT higher rate of significant percentage of people who lost NIT difference in productivity and work growth. NIT more taxation on the middle tax nation followers. Don't work or NIT conditions because like the working. No, the disease links don't matter because we haven't run an impact to the mistakes. 1, do both. It looks like the states are taking the lead. It links to midterm state representatives still receive praise. And let's see improvements of Trump. 3, 2 is do counterplan. 3, it could be the app. 4, it can't. Sorry, wait, no. 3 is it can't solve. 1 is funding states get access public funds needed to fund 60% of the plan is Poland. And 2 strike down. It rises. LL22. Arise out of the grants all state laws are related to employment and franchise and resident and horizontal connected with state laws required for subsidies or restructure. Place in particular ways to indirectly and produce an economic price which arise when overcome coverage with certain choice insurance. To avoid preemption, the government cannot regularly self-funded plans of being solvency. McCoskey 20. Employees pay policy children employer funds and everything to self-funded and state of grants or Americans coverage to Supreme Court health funding. Self-funding are replicating insurance case when may not regulate the senior insurance preemption which is efforts and act reforms. Condo is a order for its contradiction which creates huge killing app strategy to dismiss solves and put and conditions that say no guaranteed. I'll get the author in a second. HA seriously reform to see setting up conditions where you will satisfy beyond sanity, hard approval, broad disruption, strong political life managers and waivers, extended government role and insurance vouchers. 1 is do what they show. 2 is do counterplans the way the counterplan can be done. 3 can't solve administrative bills, the burden still rapidly raise costs because of private insurance. And conquer 5. I made no fix when the agents about the study plans that you obviously were presenting for the government administrative burdens. Our new workers administrative also really go and which is now deal with. It's really known as savings, increases adverse selection for any coverage and increases administrative costs. 5. Hand people can find their insurance dimensions wrong, there was talk to go words and have leverage walk away body will violate submission for a public market charges, no more than patient to eliminate choice. Chris don't pick on noble advisory going individual breaks, you know, house always wins, will help you always by pay plans, seeking comprehensive insurance, know how to send offer premium plans, offer nothing, average the healthy multi insurance, stock workers, last building people have used, so some of the values of the administration exposed to the links of individual consumer time, especially insurance plans, with the different numbers, so I just charges dysfunction. 4, form of the plan and non mutually exclusive part of the campaign, it certainly links to lobbying because health insurance still lobbies for a larger voucher, which links to the entire first advantage. Now, it links to the net benefit because it creates a new price ceiling as well, which undermines stock valuation and establishes innovation. Every private insurance battle, you know, on the other page is an opposite because the counterplan maintains the system. Don't counterplan, do both. Cap K. 1 is framework. Evaluate plan desirability. Anything else to realize infinite prior questions between 8 minutes. Impact fairness is insurance and good growth. 2 is growth sustainable. 2 become right. Use 100 companies when you're doing materialization, one of its countries, and beans and binge and no alpha fan if you're going to recycle or economical or option another absolute no way. 2, 3 do both. They advance the plan, not mutually exclusive parts, both are world elite, which is a great deal. 4 Jack Caps good. 8 surroundings. 25. Econ free donations, clear. IA insurance and renewable normal countries do pledge net zero effect, research transition net zero promotes innovation, defense and environmental check and renewable and mitigating climate, capturing climate policy, non free market innovation, allocation innovation with less direct econ free crucial accelerated transition policy, entrepreneurship of markets and power charging, competitive markets overcome transition 1% EPI, it leads to increase the share of renewables. Beast war 3.4. Capitalist beast, economic institution, reduce like the war, evidence of sewage, conflict, trade, systemized conflict, and democracy, economic and political freedom, reinforced international relations with development, utopia, private actor, and international fiat avoids war deficits, being the world peace government, killing Africa, the all can't solve, where markets are key to avoid economic catastrophe. That was the entire first advantage, and Pixar are voted with the killing fairness, they failed to cause extinction. Code 24. Asian countries start becoming trade and free market nationalism, fuel imperial expansion, spark trade conflicts, state control, econ segment, barriers, multilateral law, and security tech, and environment. Bison. 1 price will be reauthorized. 629. Controversy self collection and illegally lost exploration. This begins civil liberties group. Advocating to someone who searches the intersect with constitutional protection against searches, Trump, so it's a skill fights. Alleged programs illegally used against intelligence. Instructions are worried about how long this will take. 2, the logical policymaker can do both. 3, Trump's CC is in the gutter. The contestant is 624. Trump's in a tight spot to limit his own because he's all little story. He's on the extent of each without going through the whole office. President builds a great political coalition, starting to see defection as well as across the aisle. And president limit of political coverage. Donald Trump decision making creates burdens and consequences. 4, no link the plan is the bottom of the docket. 5, winners win. 25. Trump declared equal to hold powers and legislative wins and moving political momentum. The Congress passing new taxes and spending goals to Congress. President touted as being of a and to PC. 6, internal link disconnect. State is the top priority for Trump now, not FISA. Midterms. 1 Republicans win now. Trump 16. Redistributing the midterm bananas after being as busted eligible vendors and gerrymandered in a court decision of GOP's leader map that favors Republicans by time 6 given the jobs that are open to the Compound Party holds redistributing essentially a like conservative Democrats waging an uphill on a look for the house gets argued that day. Baptists work. 2, the absolves the entirety of democracy and populism because we have a larger approximate internal link from inequality. 3, Democrats are split out. Thomas L. 26. Allies pouring money into odds and help you go down officials in Michigan and the Democrats discuss consulting departments holding meeting outside progress of populist establishments risking about Trump's escalating party civil war percentages against our surgeon left wing Senate counter to be populist popular and centuries alive and right back organize the left-wing over big resources and challenge reform trying to create image after voting Jason Chairman. No link, the plan would be fiercely unpopular, but Democrats would support it. Kendall 26. For any which will upgrade back economic will be worse, Republicans on the worst because over to Obamacare and Medicaid turnovers and wherever it's safe for Republicans to kill a gift, a clear credible attack line, not political spin, some high pressure for organization Democrats, and will give up benefit as the last job, populist will opponents bring up downside doorway, healthcare advantage, which cost them the midterms, because she's going to share 25. Progressive pushing Medicare for all threatening inequality. The threatening Union parties found out attacking November was over expired. Obamacare, Medicare for all being a flash more aggressive, we do push Democratic Party. United Front, we have a single arrest from the Republicans on the ropes. Market ropes.
this last card you read on midterm, what argument is it?
So there's currently a fracture in the Democratic Party over single-payer. The plan solves that.
Well, this says progressives pushing for Medicare for all is what threatens their unity.
Yeah, there's a fast
As
split
decided.
between progressives and centrists in the Democratic Party now.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. The Cap K. Let's start the perm. What would that look like?
So it would be the adoption of basically, we would socialize every industry, but except for healthcare providers.
Okay, so
hospitals,
why would
businesses.
companies just flood to become healthcare providers?
Okay, like obviously Raytheon did not become a hospital provider and then start producing weapons.
Okay, wait, why not?
Because the government would regulate them. They would say you cannot produce weapons, that is not healthcare provision.
Okay, sure. And then why would companies just become healthcare providers and then just like start producing drugs and stuff and maintain their
Okay,
how
but
big they are?
keep in mind all of your impacts are to things like the military industrial complex, to fossil fuels. Those don't exist post-alternative or post-perm. We have private hospitals,
Okay,
they produce
sure.
drugs.
But if we win that private hospitals are bad, then that's straight.
If you win that private hospitals independently cause an existential impact, I guess.
Okay.
We'll
Sure.
test it anyways, cap is probably good.
Okay. Externalities, the Halimarium card, which ones solve climate?
So Calamarium makes a few arguments. First, economic growth leads to a transition towards renewables and
Sure.
future
Where does
technology.
this card say that transition? This card, I agree. This card says that it's possible that clean energy might, growth might allow for clean energy. Where does it say that transition is happening?
Sure. Economic freedom fosters competitive markets, which is a pathway to overcoming constraints. and
Yeah, a
transition
pathway.
to
Where does it
renewable
say why would companies have a motive to create clean tech?
If all of your arguments about resource shortages are correct, then to grow, companies would pursue alternative pathways to growth, i.e., renewable energy.
Okay, I see. Okay, that makes sense. What was the second word that you were talking about?
Tech.
Tech. Okay, sure. Why? What tech would this be? I guess.
A combination of renewable energy, improved efficiency in renewable energy.
Why is that exclusive to growth?
Yeah, we think that private markets are the only things conducive to innovation.
But why?
Because they set effective prices for innovation, and price indicators determine what
Yeah.
is worth
Wait.
commercializing.
So it's still unified after that. That's what I said. Since it's now been stolen, now they
Wait, can I ask a question?
Like, what in the world just happened? Like, they need to ask a question that an adult cannot be present for?
Who asked the question?
Wow,
What is that?
Monster.
That was you?
Sorry.
Oh my god.
Okay, I think that's good enough.
Bruh.
What?
Thank you.
Yeah. Wait, can I use prep to ask a question?
Like, sure.
Status of the off.
We discussed this already.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, that was such a story.
Okay, is everyone, oh wait, let me send it. Okay, is everybody good for an order?
We downloaded.
Okay.
Okay, is the states counterpart? The midterms decide? The FISA disadvantage? The advantage counterpart? The vouchers counterpart? Advantage 1, advantage 2.
States, midterms, FISA, advantage, conflict, vouchers, growth.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. Okay.
Okay. Burger?
Yep.
The category sold in the state's payroll and income taxes provide a restriction and redirect subrogation provisions at the state level. Use efficiency even if one plan gets preempted, the others solve enough of the case. The decide ways. 2C1, reject duos. First, least in the benefit. Federal action. Those like Trump taking credit, no shields, assumes the counterpart happens first, or generates Congress backlash. Second, no net benefit. Use the office defense. Is most logical and most that way deficit. And now, 2C2, no least in the benefit. First, it's a sliding scale. The capital links less. Trump's terrorism claims are weaker on the state level. Second is counterbalance. It's perceptually uniform, meaning Republican states doing the plan is counteracted by Dems doing it too. 2C3, no dealing counterplan. First is severs. Use the G of voting issue for night groundless. U.S. legal. And the use of G is the three branches powers of non-assigned to the Federal Reserve. 2C4, no funding or preemption deficit. The counterplan also compensates for self-funded plans. First, profit motive taxes, capture expenditures, incentivizing employers to drop coverage to save costs, and provider restrictions, negotiate with hospitals. There assumes direct regulation, while the counterplan is the indirect taxes are Goldilocks to the right challenges. Thus, Miskowski inserted it's not even related to employer mandates. Thus, Brown 20 payroll tax is tied to benefit because the levels are coverage does not dictate employers spend funds on employees that all know impact on services, funding, or administration. Second is uniformity. It steers the course into not ruling on preemption. The cumulative effect of each plan mitigates the risk. As Brown and Miskowski 20 combination of future trade creates a more meaningful alternative, opens an avenue to maintain plans as well as the state plan, combining tax with the provider payment enables lower tax rate, lower the rate, less likely it'll be exorbitant. Third is severability. Even if the right payroll is preempted, income and pay or play will scale up. That's Miskowski. And preemption, no, there's also no strike down because preemption does not mean it. There's always a risk the court doesn't hear or let the case go. Now, the last part is about waivers. We'll kick the waivers plan, which means that it doesn't apply. 285 is condo. It's good. We get what we did. First, next flex. Topic is ad bias. Will ever just have lucid to the link, making testing a necessity. Second is logic. The only role is negative to disprove plan desirability. Multiple options. Encourage research. Now defense. First, Q inevitable. Cheat distance and speedable abuse has diminishing marginal utility. Second is research inevitable. If offense is best, the 2AC will read a dispo. It's bad. It lacks definitional consensus. The process makes it functionally condo words. Go to the midterms. Is that GOP win? Causes fast extension. First is magnitude. College for Russia, China, North Korea rapidly militarizing. Decrease north and upends global stability, which is a terminal that is distinct from democracy that they did not answer. In a turns case, Trumpism causes populism and degrades democracy, while first strike turns readiness. It also solves case stem vector pushes for comprehensive healthcare. 2C1 Dems win now. Cook with 7 racist, and even Fox News is pessimistic. This Dems are ahead. This Willoughby 7-1. Trump reasons to be nervous about elections. Downward trend and approval change of balance. Power likely. They're up 6%. This real clear polling. 6 2629. Now Iran, now wars, other wars like the Iran war, Epstein, etc. translate into backlash for Trump, which gets linked to the Republican Party, which means that he loses now. 2AC2, app does not solve democracy and populism. They drop in the bucket, can't solve globally, but that will be done on the case. 2AC3, there is no street turn. The plan is massively popular. It appeals to voters. Well, their evidence is about Congress, which doesn't determine the midterm. Single payer swings voters to the GOP. This year, 26 political candidates are making public health the central part of campaigns highlighting importance of healthcare for all. I know people get nervous when it's politicized. Public health, but it's already politicized. New health platform non-negotiable for all candidates. We want to make public health central in these midterms. It will appeal to voters of all states. Doesn't matter what party voters have the right to know which candidate are going to protect their health agenda. Could go further with single payer universal health care. The most important thing, single payer is popular. The DFP 25 data for progress, 65% of voters support Medicare for all. Destroy national health insurance cover all Americans. Replace most private health care plans include Democrats 78, Independents 71, Florida Republicans 49. Responses more details. Eliminate most private insurance plans. Replace true retired tax guarantee costs. Coverage for everybody. Eliminating out-of-pocket costs. Copays and deductibles. Similar majority of voters support Medicare for all. Respond to provided with arguments from both sides. Supporters arguing policy ensure everyone can receive care. Mark that card at care. What is this? 2AC4 it's also logically wrong. Trump takes credit for the plans, which is normal means, which means they can't be attributed to Democrats or they won't support it. But Plan Popular also answers it because it's a prerequisite question. But even if Dems support it, party fraction would probably be inevitable. No court says that Dems will unify after the plan enough to win the midterms, and the court still says it's controversial. But even if Dems aren't arguing, it's also about voter appeal. Well, their evidence is about Congress, but a GOP's plan steals Dems' biggest platform and fulfills promises of affordability. Even small shifts in voter sentiment change the outcomes. For instance, 617 of women results already receiving the election. As soon as we can have an outside influence, even the slightest shift in voter participation could proceed and have major consequences for the next 2 years. A GOP win calls this plan roadblock presumption. Single payer was a winning strategy. Let's say 25 universal health care has wider public support. Americans want free from profit, and Republicans, Independents, and Democrats to unify in the government. House insurance. Single payer is a political winner. That's looking at 25. Americans flourish. Trump has the opportunity to bridge this by single payer system, but benefit low-class families. They're going to lose their consensus regardless of affiliation. Medicare for all, which secure legacy is make or break. That's Harris 25 rep converts to the party. Republicans face the midterm election nightmare. Trump need to show Americans they have actual solutions and health care problems. Affordability is the biggest issue. Let's count 25. Voters support for single payer critical factors aligned to support transformative change. Voters favor real solution in the mood of Medicare for all. Care about affordability. Medicare care is front and center. Medicare for all is part of the Dem comeback. Go to the fights. It is that explicitly concede no internal link that means that there is no impact and gets out of the straight turn. Go to the advantage kind of plan. Concede, do both. Not going for the vouchers kind of plan. Same. Concede, do both. The uniqueness kind of plan. Concede, do both. Go to the first advantage first. There's no hegemony or lash out impact. First, 88 billion. And Iran munitions should have solved defense. They also dropped the Trump thumbs treaties, which makes isolation, not isolationism. It means that allies already feel like we're not protecting them. There's no risk of war. Let's be like 21 numbers focus on rogue states fitting into history results in Iran and North Korea. That this presents major military aggression requirements for containment does not require the US maintain large forces, plenty of time to build up unwanted sanctions and diplomatic forays failed. Third, mass loss the case, but not today. That because Trump is irrational. Force all causes attack rates, recruiting and structural failures makes decline in level. Russia and China are not status seeking, not revisionist of Larson. And chapter 19, order China military silence in the essays Putin and Crimea, rooted in psychological SAT perception of unfair treatment, motivate lower status due to challenge the school first generation over denied status. Social group 1, positively distinctive identity, average to first rate status, starting to work more dangerously to conflict. You should reinforce cooperation and appeasement. Is misconception. No slow growth impact. First in periods COVID-08 and 40 recessions were peaceful, even if their impacts are short term. Even if their impacts are long term, some of these recessions also work. Countries only fight wars they think will be easy wins. They won't lash out. Second, its term growth encourages withholding input for profit, encouraging every terminal. Third, decline sells Russia and China. The use is no longer competing, meaning if they're right about revisionism, there's no incentive to strike. Fourth, app bills. Last 4 rounds of 20 GDP slowdown was 2.3. Slowness produced crisis isn't something we can fix because whenever consequences think the one right for fertility has a significant impact, particularly in the US. Baby boom workers rose substantially as the receded slowed grocery workers. A job to provide spend access to college, opening up first prejudice to women shift from goods to services became efficiency of expenditure fell, shipment grows back, destroy all of our goods. Now they've also dropped there's no break for cost, which means you aren't certain how much the app can solve. Go to the second advantage, no inequality, impact, or democracy. First, all causes, taxes, Fortune 500, or free speech restriction, they drop that they can't solve globally because there's inequality in other places. Second, no solvency. Trump's fastest administration derails plan solvency. Assume they cut healthcare. Third, inequality is low. Data shows wealth is increasing in their app discount program as many and includes houses flood. 26, global income inequality fallen over longer, also decline in education, health in 2010 versus spend 40% more than 2025. 18, fourth, course check Trump or intervening after solve. Inequality does not lead to war, and democracy is resilient. Wealth, tech, and ice prove resiliency, no backsliding, which also answers the terminal, but they also drop that 6 years of Trump thumping. That's Schiller 25, only about a fifth of dangerous populace actually kill democracy. American democracy more resilient than you think. Crucial advantages versus democracy really died 2020 study identified. A presidency had per capita more than 23 cases fighting doesn't kill democracy, resources and institutions impossible to quash. No populism impact. Cross-apply all defense above first is done by Trump. And populists don't have access to nukes, which is proven by cross-check. Second, in turn, growth favors big corporations, which would increase populist sentiment because their wages go down. Third, resilience is true for the US is willing. 24, concerned about stress gone too far. Democracy commands enormous resilient America, but no conditions for populist destruction, defense, and corrosion judiciary. A constitution remain hard to change. America enjoys strong immunity to populism. A more dramatic before interwar years avoided breakdown despite unprecedented crisis. Democracy is far from defensive. Liberal pluralism is firmly entrenched, is internationally secure. No need for alarmism.
7:40.
I'm good for crosstalks.
Let's start on midterms. Why do you think planned popular voters answers Democratic splits in the party?
Because those are the people who are voting for who will be in
Like
Congress.
we read evidence that the Democratic Party is literally fracturing. They're funding campaigns for people opposing Democrats.
Okay, so
because-
is that well, that would be a uniqueness argument. And then we said forth that despite Democrats having conflicting issues, right now Trump is so unpopular because of things like inflation and rising costs for average Americans, that would mean that Democrats would still win now.
Can you walk me through the impact to this? Like Trump gets elected, what happens? You said China and Russia become authoritarian or something like that.
I didn't say the word authoritarian. The Taylor evidence is
Or
pretty good.
totalitarian.
It says that giving Trump power to pass his aggressive foreign policy would allow increased tolerance for other countries that we've both identified as aggressive. Countries like Russia, China, and North Korea would think that it's okay to degrade norms because Trump would be doing the same.
Okay, and actually, sure, let's go to the first advantage. COVID-08, these are short-term recessions that were resolved within years. Why is this responsive to our scenario?
Like, I think a few years is still a long time. Also, you don't have a piece of evidence that says that the recession coming down would be longer than that. So I don't get what this gets you.
Okay. $88 billion in a bond should have sold. We made an argument about why future defense will be constrained by debt. Why do you think a fiscal stimulus for defense production now solves that?
It means that our munitions will be restocked. And so even if the economy goes down and we can't produce new weapons, we'll have stockpiles, things like missiles and hypersonics, which would be able to solve enough of readiness.
What's it? Okay. Let's go to inequality. What's the warrant for intervening actors check and no backsliding?
The warrant for intervening actors was courts. If he's too egregious, then they might step in. Or if there's truly a global existential crisis, then other countries will probably come together regardless of the US. Like when there was a hole in the ozone layer, you saw countries putting aside a lot of their conflicting ideologies to work together to solve a global problem. The Scheller evidence says that only about a fifth of dangerous populists actually kill democracy. Our system is incredibly resilient. We have a lot of money, we have strong in-place institutions, things like that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Alright.
Oh, you can grab.
Yeah.
heart attack.
Be careful because 3 hours too much hours.
Okay, I'm good.
Alright. Burger. Alright. Wait, Burger, are you good?
Yeah.
Alright. You guys good?
Capitalism because of extinction, when climate promoting cuts and eco-destruction of global pollution crisis outweighs predominantly eco-destruction extending no matter how many mechanism then in 2,476 devices move core taxonomy new war. Next station warming is 2 war arms goes nuclear parts of conflict Middle East and Ukraine are gripped by spending as neo-nuclear risk 13 J20 nuclear 100% surety accident new war by 2 weapons online possibility to destroy power. This is all about significantly dangerous capitalism driving nuclear strategy 3 AI growing at 24 ITI technology automated hash wars away from industry to discredit monopolies positive feedbacks cost cascading RSI no idea access to human control AI to species reduce into attack. This was off control resources beyond certain thresholds. You can go logged in. For it turns case profit motive magnifies and calling it a greedless democratic norm erosion to see one framework counterintuitive the next win by disproving the abstract and only theory pervert that's utmost educational such a 30-year promo by laws and then really realize the person to near look case of visible way to somebody man's trying to hedge predicting rovers low to explore conditional possibility group just clash cast of a core function 11 14 large asset and crude research compounded by infinite profit for the last trade requires defensive their theory language for to policy should these policy advocated by committee theory and for act to justify policy their impact is guaranteed by switching sides choosing one see and let line no office. There's only 3 systems. We're going to provide half the companies include command market mix 3 main branches. Tracy 2, capitalism is not sustainable. 1 planetary boundaries, endless growth of our finite planet is impossible. 2 military spending trees off. Social investment and increasing carbon emissions. 3 politically impossible companies. Block green initiatives, prioritizing profit over health as only 4 production costs. Therefore production peak declines and statistics of rates of disciplines of war perilously close food protection peak consumption. Nuclear start no longer sustainable. 5 offshore and Chavez paradox per each provide never be public. Extraction and increase quality of court electric GDP over the country abroad. Country to equal transfer to emerging countries. 50 gains rise reboot effects tech result intensification and Chavez paradox. Trace the read reject you both don't let them re-articulate as carve out as it was explained that way into a C frame we reset competitions based on links to a plan they drop and share requires providers which is mutually exclusive with NHAs because it naturalizes them. This was again in really will concede quadrado is specific that NHA requires contractual agreements with providers, no new answers, block decisions. That brings off to mistakes if they sever the mandate. It's a voting issue for eliminating all fakes. Inventing clash established regards from this. You can carry 385. Additional agree were already remaining accurately expressed purpose established in same place and made it permanent. That's what's well prevents conditional ask. This make all DS 0 DS self offense only after absolute rejection shall work. 17 single person not complete. Institution bringing all healthcare without public assistance providers to organize free social individual patient needs primary against should exist and ones that make it econ capitalistic support for private self link here they drop it and try uphold privatized infrastructure for private care. That's what's in the all things insurance uniqueness in turns case one slow growth their evidence. You can see that competition in economic and romantic drives systemic border clear conflict and that only sustainable development solves. And that's why I see Lemieux inserted for reference later and that's how big tech controls the state and American regulation of global governance. The move to corporations operate across jurisdiction inflation will reduce shape international arms to raise jurisdictions because there was liberty civil actors society will accrue on our face legitimacy crisis limited by progress. 2 the turns. And that was in the overview. 3 costs they dropped NHI accumulates capital in the private sector, which drives private cost through the roof, turning access. That's why the act fails falls to prevent motive tears. 57 years. NHI has defeated a lot of regulatory to cost. H suffer logic reviews commercialization, medical prevention, PR prison, and relief hospitals that NHI can be run coordinating corporate regulation and funding costs, increasing bureaucracy. No extra not juicy. 4 no externalities from the issue they need when transitions coming on now that it's possible. Innovation in water, provide purposes squeeze to deliver price artificial abuse, capital surplus making and permanently reinvesting hospital equipment under capital supply innovation, renovation, different rollout investments on global scale, no war, straight turn to the overview, nationalization is better, meaning 20, left over provides a currency code, without us program firms on saving capitalism, left thinkers argue, US president war from excess capital, democratized, reduce, whether nationalized defense use power to equal power, turn, environmental meaning, 65, we meet here, also domestic and governmental, but we concede pragmatic global fiat, which zeros often framework, don't know if they said perfecom, but conduct justifies it, and we never contradicted 26, and also plan a movement to NHS that abolishes market insurance, that's off case, for the equality, and one is everyone is guaranteed access to healthcare, and treatments are related, and really socialism itself removes income disparity to efficiency. To write 19, essentially doctors and workers, research and record control, and different scientists improve most and how health pursue projects most be afforded by analysis by public scientists, no reason can socialize pharma. We meet Hicks theory, no transition, conflict, all to quit, and stop basketball, last 24, state, let public nutrition, satisfied well-being, invasion, culture, prevent war, revolution, world out, society, married, pro-religion, opposition, change to totalitarianism, disarm, democratic participation, wider appropriability, no less than state, avoids backlash, number 38, equal socialist, report state, effort to defend transition, important building, so to avoid tendency, authoritarian child, state funding, protection, protect, accomplish pressure program, realize world ecology, right-wing populism, grow eco-socialism, democracy, weaken, right-wing possibilism, independent fertility, and insects cause extinction. Gotham provide toxic nature, contributed and collect and destruction, never development, reduction in fertility, insects, activities, decline passes, integration of food chains, decline, and cascading collapse, ecosystem threat, survival chances, transit for 20 years, existential threat collapse, well-being capping terms unsustainable.
You say all theory or collapsing condo office.
Reject all the argument not true.
I wrote it down. 5.
T advantage, the Capitalism K, the midterms to stat, and the states counter.
Wait, sorry, where's midterms right before states? Sure.
Good.
Wait, weaker out.
Oh, my bad.
1 second.
I can say that.
Midterm states.
Let's take this.
Okay. No changes. Good. Trigger.
Defense restraining just refund confident and your person nuclear last of the target. Feeling can't tell long-term physical crisis. Trump doesn't love because treaties. It's not controlled like no risk reward. Real evidence of the same Russia and China. It's about no current Iran, not our impact. Trump being irrational means that can't solve. No all causes. U.S. fiscal capacity is key to win tax rates now. Russia's under business. Proven by aggression in the Arctic, rapid militarization invasion of Ukraine. All proves their evidence all studies that does assume new aggression now. Intervening actors can't solve our impact because cooperation only happens for U.S. and Germany. That's the new evidence now. Yes, last that's what has every impact above. Decline causing active fragmentation to provoke cyber collapse. Aggression and cooperation over climate pandemics. That's the new evidence. No pure scope, no weight in the short term. They haven't from supply shocks in the short term, not from long term aggregate demand decreasing. No last sentence above. No turn decline means Russia trying to strike to divert and strike through diverse wars. Full act evidence is wrong. If the card says nothing, yes, solves the wars through solving debt. Yes, there's a rate. There's 130% debt to GDP ratio was the rate, and the price evidence. Go to cap or go to inequality. Can see two things. One, all democracy, populism, defense. Trump is constrained. Democracy is resilient, and populism is resilient from liberalism. Two, the act cannot solve this advantage globally. Work in the midterms is that. That's U.S. midterms impact. Because the impact is all about how Trump will lash out, and Trump is a bad person. But they've read defense to their own impact on this advantage. Go to cap. No yes, nuclear impact. They killed nuclear space and express fire. No student resistance to society, single adaptation for nuclear and they don't appear from world of it. Existence. No J evidence does not make a claim. J says they manufacture nukes, not that they use them. No AI impact constitutional court. Constitutional on the generation of evidence that are feasible. Gender down the blessed not this is communication ways. They cannot be nucleated. Go child 16 times more than LLMs. Fertility is fake, which are five and Republicans behind and it comes to fertility and obviously associated overseas impact. No insects and for insects rapidly possibly population increasing species of public contact close to declines leveled off and reversed. And the link turns case up to be into low. Now cap is stable. One, decoupling demutualization, decoupling research use emissions, growth now, accounting for offshoring, that's two externalities, growth creates innovation for renewables, attack competitive markets, a key moment transition that's how there's no boundaries can be driven by US factors combination for demutualization, accounting increasing, efficiency about and it goes recycling and human offshore. Neither are absolute no one way. No military trade-offs decrease in GDP growth and impact your spending. No politics, externalities of realms, stagnant markets are definitely corrected by innovation. No Greek evidence, offshoring is read by studies above. Different paradox makes no sense. And plus exists intact. Renewables are distinct because they're not emissions. Because they're net emission and resource efficient. No Walton evidence. Decoupling is not apparent until happens growth is naturally that's above. Demutualization solves basis that's above. No private innovation solves. Private government budgets allow outside of government state usually. Government to create expedition like local growth technology. We companies that know they will the north states like as better room. Experience never failed, letting fuel moving never lost. And just attack companies and methodology and analyze quickly forward. No, the link stuff is wrong. One of risk is removed. He says stagnation and dependencies become vulnerable when the US decline economically. There's no impact to big tech link. No link case. Link evidence is not about the app. German fiat solves capital condition. Because single pair cannot be ripped off. They drop monopoly power solves, which is why the app cannot be transcased because the single pair cannot be ripped off in the first place. It will negotiate low prices. That's the Berman evidence. Now extend growth is good. Causes instant escalation of resource trade, which causes every activist that scope. Our evidence is about markets and states. That means all the impacts are not external because US the decline causes global fragmentation. That's the gap which is cause extinction. Now good solves war. Studies prove that's Greek evidence. The theory is wrong. The MIC is fake. Because you that makes paper research. Wouldn't be defense policies. Economists who consider creatures. We want to military spending. Their goals 110 degree from the other day with this level. Half of healthcare, but it's good. Defense rate causes that lash out, which turns to the scenario that's targeted, and there's no spillover because growth was locked in. That's above states or midterms. Okay, defense on the same advantage cost lies here. No turns case. Aft solves Trump by causing turns case will help to vacate that advantage. Without a Democrat solve case, the app gets vetoed by Trump and filibustered in the Senate anyway, and they have not read any evidence for this, so force them to read evidence for this as well. No rollback, no if that's false, and the impact was answered on advantage 2. So the zeros to this ad. Now states. Zeroing that benefit takes out this ad, and it also permutation do both solves. Now, condos voter, advanced returns, rooting research or fairness, no flex, generic term, contradictions, perf turns logic, no negative logic sets, other solves the offense, this one forces death, permit flex solves defense, they get infinite options, but they have to defend their options in the first place. Go to
Go back to cap.
go back to cap.
Like, can you answer please? So say, Meany assumes non-revisionist adversaries, Russia and China, actively try to work the global order. That's part of it.
Okay. Meany evidence assumes non-revisionist adversaries, but Russia and China are trying to overturn the global order, and that's on the case of interest. And they're proven by that, proven by Ukraine, and aggression in Taiwan, and military buildup, and tech superiority right now. Which is present on the evidence and the price evidence in the argument evidence.
It was not even.
I think I wrote it down.
6 something.
6, 10. That's that right?
seconds?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Midterms cap states the impact that they extended, I guess. Good?
Yep.
There's a false claim that this has the only impact was not Trump. There was also U.S. intelligent impact. It means that we cannot stop Russia and China and instead of from escalating and going to nuclear war. That awaits the case because they know deep into this impact or worse in Turner's case. It means we have a lower threshold for winning the campaign because we have inroads into their offense. Will they have numb to ours? The GOP wins down, but the single payer is massively popular. We stop them from winning the midterms. It's the same because it's not just about Trump, but about U.S. institution capability to respond to crisis. Now go to the campaign in a ways. I'm going for war. Profit motive fuels endless war via MIC profits and research about trading arms raising and first strike Taiwan in proxy wars. Go nuclear that ways. It's proven by a drop in empirics like Iran, Afghanistan, Vietnam, and the war on terror. MIC fake is not a good answer. It just says we don't spend a lot on military spending relative to healthcare. Never says capitalism does not cause war. I'm also going for AGI. Misalignment causes extinction and deletes human control and decides to terminate our species. It's faster than the case. Positive feedback causes a cascade of our side to resist reprogramming. Their defense is terrible. It's from 2024. Last before AI got big and ChatGPT rapidly developed, which means it's feasible because LLMs are getting smarter and more advanced. Our evidence is 2 years more recent, so preferred. There's no AI link to markets are bad for innovation and encourages duplicates and lacks oversight, swelling, proof, driven by the profit motive, which is about companies who want money to develop faster, increasing the risk of misalignment that outweighs their impact because it causes infant suffering. I'm not going for fertility or insects, so there's no impact for that. Now go to sustainability. They cannot go for decoupling. Well, they drop a ton of warrants. First, this planetary boundary. You cannot have endless growth on a finite planet. They encourage research overuse, which destroys our forests and our coal. Second is military spending. It turns out with social investment, the increasing carbon emission takes the environment, which causes rapid extinction of magnitude. The most probabilistic impact. Third is fossil fuel companies are incentivized to block green growth under the profit motive, which means even if they're right about decoupling, green tech never gets disseminated. Answer decoupling. Now, framing issue. They need to win. There's a transition now. Proving the companies don't want to transition. Also, zero slow growth since the proves collapse is inevitable. They also got on the case. I read a card that spending there is structural spending because GDP will decline, which means they can't sell. Forces production instead decline because food will peak, causing starvation, which is also an independent impact. Now, the only card they read was trash. It was only listing 100 commodities. We list way more. Driven is illogical. It's not an impact. Efficiency gains will be offset by increases in demand as people use that more, which leads to more research usage. Now, countries with decoupling also have a rebound effect, which is a proof evidence, and they listed no studies, which means that it can't be offense for them now. And there's a huge link. And NHS allows for the government to completely nullify countries, allows for military spending to increase substantially, while also solving the root cause of slow growth. There are massive links. They've explicitly gone for a gross impact, meaning the money as opposed to revitalize the economy. And negotiate with companies to retain private insurance that works to all provides uniqueness because of it, which they drop and prove that the link is used monopoly power cannot solve our evidence that the private healthcare is structurally flawed. It's structurally flawed. Now, decline does not cause war. Prefer what is the most qualified exercise data, analyzing 40 recessions and concluding wars were unrelated, even if interdependence was the latest. States quote only start wars they think will be quick, cheap, and they can win. No idiot thinks that about the U.S. Even if Russia and China are revisionist, they're not suicidal, and nukes would still deter war post-plan, which means the defense does not cause lash up because they've also dropped that the alternative solves war to move to NHS, which solves it, delays the profit motive and private insurance, which if we're right about the root cause of war, then it won't lead to extinction. Now, I'll underline the internal links for the admin calls. Drop for the length, the NHR is more than efficient. Negotiations with companies drag on for a significant amount of time, which drives off admin costs. Now go to the state's counterplan. Kono is good. We get what we did. First, instead flex, tiny ass, and zero. This has structural uniqueness, makes testing a necessity. Second, it's research. They dropped his best. If the office is best, the tweets you always read it. They also dropped the skew is inevitable from things like cheat, distance, and speed. Also, third is logic. The only role is negative, and this group plan desirability, which means Kono cannot be offense here. They also dropped diminishing marginal utility, which disincentivizes abuse. Dispo is bad. They dropped that there's no consensus, which means that it's arbitrary. We never know what it is, so we can't debate it. They also dropped that it doesn't solve free turns. It still links to all their offense, which is done above. But they also don't reject the argument of the team. We can still win on cap as it is. Now go to the case. There is no readiness impact. First, quote stalls. Congress will fund $88 billion in Iran munitions, which they dropped with resource missiles that were hypersonic, cyber, and nuclear weapons for deter war. Second, their evidence alarms of no rogue states like Iran. No rogue states. The allies can contain threats by building their own militaries, meaning the U.S. isn't needed. They've also dropped all causes to prevent readiness, things like the tech-based recruiting and structural failures. Now, we do not have to win revisionism. Empirics were rooted in psychological insights of social theory, meaning they perceived unfair treatment, which is right for empirics like the Arctic, a left desires are inevitable. Or if they're right about Trump checks, that means that the U.S. will not go to war because they will stop this foreign policy. What our climate effect is about other countries striking us first, and the climate pandemic effect relies on the turtle link to that, or whereas capitalism turns it. Capitalism turns it, which was all done above. Now, their evidence also is flawed because they can see that factors like aging limit aggression from Russia and China. It also says competition encourages coercion and influence frequency, turning every impact, which means it declines stalls by removing the profit incentive.
332.
Okay, ready.
The app is try or die. Decline fragments the LIO, which prevents cooperation on a litany of existential risks: cyber, AI, pandemic, disinfo, totalitarianism, all require the US to lead the global order, which requires it to retain strong economic growth. That's Lemieux. Trump! There's zero defense in this scenario. The night didn't read China to break the LIO, didn't read LIO resilient, didn't read anything responsive to this. Hedge defense not apply. It's about deterrence, which isn't about US economic primacy, which is the key internal link for the US leading the global international order. It's try or die. It accesses every terminal they could possibly have because Lemieux specified that it's required to cooperate over a litany of existential risks and it solves a high risk of conflict in the interim, which all guarantees escalation. So even if they win, that long-term capitalist risk exists, and that foreign policy would necessarily cause China and Russia to be aggressive. A strong ally would necessarily cap the risk of this ever escalating to a nuclear basis in the first place, because cooperation ensures that there's off-ramps or escalation that resolve every existential risk. A lot of Sofia's defense is stuff that was explicitly answered in the 1 year as well. This is why you make us do the following drill breaker: no bill, and they've dropped that. One, physical constraints mean that Congress can't bill in the long run, so the U.S. lacks capabilities. Two, is that Iran munitions isn't for conventional deterrence against Russia or China. No, alarmism as well. The Schroeder didn't cite the evidence, so we will. The Mueller evidence is wrong. The drop that is only about NOCO and Iran, not about Russia or China or the U.S. or the liberal international order. So it doesn't apply. Allied militaries can't solve U.S. lash out or U.S. decline, because our evidence specifically says that if the U.S. specifically declines, it causes global fragmentation that disrupts the international order. No all clauses. Economic growth is the key internal link above. Having contested this means I don't have to resolve this. Tech rate, all clauses, absolvency as well. Drop that the app frees up to physical constraints to allow the US to win it, which zeroes their offense. Yes, revisionism as well. Frame issues, they've dropped every empiric. They've dropped Ukraine proves Russia is revisionist because Russia invaded the country that's literally about to enter NATO. Dropped tech racing in China for episodics proves that China is revisionist, alongside rhetoric about China wanting to invade Taiwan. Social theory is wrong, it's new, but they dropped the studies are old. And it doesn't assume new aggression happening now to social theory, but it goes negative since China has been unfairly treated, which means that China has decided to go nuclear against the US. Oh wait, well, it's literally irrelevant to this debate. It's about short-term decline. We've gone for a scenario about long-term US growth being necessary to uphold the liberal international order. Our argument isn't that the US diverts, but that it fragments the global international order, which prevents cooperation and causes every existential risk. CAP can't turn it. That's MIC above. Aging limits makes no sense because the app solves long-term productivity, which resolves all of this. CAP. The fair issue here is that sustainability determines the entire debate, because if capitalism is sustainable in the long run, the fiscal crisis and vulnerabilities are largely resolved by the app. We have an impact that filters all bears out. That was above. You have to conclude that capitalism is 100% doomed to fail in the long run. There are zero strategies to adapt, which is certainly wrong. I don't have to do much on AI right here, but they've dropped that AIs are literally can't be super intelligent. They're just 50 times stupider than babies and literally cannot learn because coding cannot teach themselves. Coding cannot teach themselves, and knowledge is acquired through experiences, which is a terminal frame issue on the risk of their impact, because it requires super intelligence to occur. Now, so they've dropped tech solves. It's the frame issue on sustainability growth is necessary to deploy renewables, which effectively limits the risk of emissions, and geoengineering, which mitigates its worst effect. Now, planetary boundaries drop dematerialization. It's empirically confirmed by thousands of industries globally, which negates resource use. That's to be dropped. MIC dropped trade-offs decrease as GDP grows, which solves social investment, and tech above solves carbon. Fossil fuel companies drop that economic crisis necessarily prices out useless industries, which means that if renewables become competitive, then the future stagnant growth means that fossil fuel companies are priced out and they lose political power. Now they've dropped the private sector is key to commercialization as well as Hosmerian, which means that transition is occurring now, but growth is necessary. Structural spending was on the case, and offshoring is disproven by studies above. Jevons paradox dropped. It only applies to renewables to existing tech, but renewables are distinct because they are net emission and resource efficient, and there's a necessary cap on energy usage. Now they've also dropped. Now growth solves war. It's a kill. They've dropped that studies show interdependence lowers the risk of conflict, while creating institutions that supports peace. That's creeks, which was not answered by the Tuner, but they've dropped second line defense. Their only war for growth causes war, which is the MIC. They've dropped. It's fake. It's doomerism. Spending has been declining, and GDP on the MIC is barely 10% now, better than it was during the 60s and during Vietnam, which obviously disproves their impact. That's Herman.
Midterms.
No drop, there's that drop. First drop, it can't solve globally. Even if it's ticky-tacky, they just dropped it out of the 1 year, which is that this is obviously zero risk. Even then, they dropped that cooperation solves this risk, and democratic constraints like courts all constrain the ability of Trump to undermine our institutions, which means that even in the long run, U.S. intelligence capabilities are necessarily guaranteed, and they can't, and it doesn't escalate. Because democracy is resilient and Trump is checked, so he won't destroy intelligence. That was all in the 1 year straight. We can see the full weight of their internal links, which means this is irrelevant. Go back to CAP. Oh, and the F solves Russia and China. Go back to CAP.
There's no risk of structural vulnerabilities as well. They've dropped that the app is necessarily key to resolve spending, which solves growth. Debate.